Hey everyone, welcome to an NFL video. This one we're going over my core plays for week 6 of the NFL season on Draftkings. Before we continue though, if you could leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out and I really appreciate it. And if you for some reason want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at ChrisPennell16. And if you're interested in my spreadsheet I build every single week, links in the description below for my Patreon as well as my Slack chat. So my spreadsheet, it's pretty much what I use to help make my videos. It's pretty much what I use for everything heading into the weekend. It really helps me out. Got the player info on here. I will upload projected ownership. I got the matchups, Vegas, the pace of play, the 2019 stats. This is just the quarterback tab. I got each one's a little bit different. Running backs got some different stuff. Wide receivers, I have wide receiver versus cornerback data and all that good stuff on there as well. ADOT, target share, all the advanced statistics are loaded up on here. Everything's color coded, nice and neat. We have some simple stats as well, as those are important too. And then we got the defense versus quarterback position. I even uploaded the weather on here. And then I have my projections and value rankings and all that stuff on there. So link in the description below, and I will stop being a commercial and let's get right into the core plays video. So let me just make sure you can see the players' names when I pop them up. So good thing I checked. Okay. So I think we are good to go. All right, so let's start off with my favorite quarterback of the week, and that is going to be Matt Ryan at 6,400. Let me make sure it's popped up. Okay. All right, so Matt Ryan, 6,400. I love this game for fantasy this week, and I love both quarterbacks, and you really can't go wrong with either, and the other quarterback being Kyler Murray. But let's talk about Matty Ice first. This game has a 52-point total at a 2.5-point spread in the Falcons' favor, so it should be pretty back and forth with two of the worst defenses with capable offenses facing off. I prefer the Falcons side of the ball, as does Vegas, and they have the better all-around pieces with Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Austin Hooper, Mohamed Sanu, and Devontae Freeman. So that's why we were talking about Ryan first, as he's my highest projected quarterback of the week at this moment. I might be a little aggressive with him being above Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, but I can do whatever I want. So as of right now, I really like Matt Ryan, and he's coming off a monster week in Houston. I really expect more of the same here in the desert this week on the road. His numbers this season are great. He's averaging 331 passing yards and 2.2 touchdowns per game. He is throwing some interceptions, but we'll get into that in a second. They're throwing the ball a ton. He's leading all quarterbacks on the slate in pass attempts per game at 44.4. And, well, he's actually tied with Goff, but it's a ton. And that's thanks in part to their defense, allowing teams in games every single week because of their defense is awful, which is a lot of the reason why we like Arizona as well in the high Vegas total. And which that's great for fantasy purposes because we don't want the Falcons getting to big leads because that means they could just grind the ball out on the ground, which we don't want, especially if we're playing Matt Ryan. So I love that their defense sucks. It really helps us out. And Ryan should have his way versus this defense, allowing 24.8 points per game to the quarterback position and allowing 284 yards and 2.4 touchdowns to quarterbacks as well. And like I said about the Matt Ryan turnover thing, Arizona has yet to pick a ball off this season. So I really like Matt Ryan heading into the weekend, as I'm sure a lot of people will. I'm assuming he's going to be the highest owned quarterback in cash games, him or Kyler Murray. I think Kirk Cousins might garner some ownership as well at that cheap price tag, but definitely think Matt Ryan and Kyler Murray lead the way heading into the weekend. And speaking of Kyler Murray, let's talk about him now. He comes in at 6,500. He's actually 100 more expensive than Matt Ryan. And other side of the game, and he's on the worst of the two offenses, but he still gets the job done on a weekly basis. As I said earlier, Vegas loves this game, and I do too. And Atlanta just got absolutely murdered by Deshaun Watson last week. And while I don't expect Murray to get 40-plus points like Deshaun Watson did, we may get our first 30-point outing out of him versus the secondary, who's definitely feeling the loss of Keanu Neal, their main safety. And the thing I love about Murray is his super safe floor with his elite rushing ability. He hasn't even thrown a touchdown the last 2 weeks, and he still scored 17 and 25 fantasy points, which is not that bad, especially without throwing a passing touchdown. He had 41 rushing yards. He's averaging 41 rushing yards per game, and he's starting to get into the end zone as well. With the past 2 weeks, he had a rushing touchdown in both games, so that's also very good. And this game, and they have a high volume offense as they play at a very fast pace and are throwing the ball 40.2 times per game. Also, thanks in part to their horrific defense and offensive line. And like last week, though, I said with Watson, he has an awful offensive line, but the Falcons are one of the worst teams in the league at generating pressure. So if given if he's given a decent amount of time to throw the ball, So like I said last week with Deshaun Watson, he has an awful offensive line, but the Falcons are one of the worst teams in the league at generating pressure. So given the opportunity to be able to throw the ball in the right amount of time, he should be able to ball out, and he did. And the same case can be made for Kyler Murray this week. I think this is the first time all season that PFF has given the Cardinals O-line the advantage in the offensive-defensive line matchup column. It's only 4%, but still, it's still an advantage nonetheless. Atlanta is allowing the second most points per game to the quarterback position this season at 25.3 points per game and 2.4 touchdowns per game. And if Christian Kirk and David Johnson do play, it's obviously an upgrade to Kyler Murray, as both are key parts of this offense. And if they're both out, I will have to lower expectations, but I still think Kyler Murray can get the job done with Larry Fitzgerald. So really like Kyler Murray and Matt Ryan heading into the week, and I want to give an honorable mention to Kirk Cousins, who is dirt cheap at 5,200, going up against a Philly pass D, which we know is awful. And he excelled last week in against a really bad team, a really good matchup versus the New York Giants. 22 for 27, 306 passing yards for 2 touchdowns, got 23 fantasy points. Gets another great matchup this week versus Philly, which we know sucks versus the passing game and is very good versus the run. So give a shout out to him too, but definitely like Matt Ryan and Kyler Murray. All right, so let's venture into the running back position, and the first guy I want to talk about is LeVeon Bell at 6,400. The main thing here is the price tag. He's way too cheap, and the Jets get Darnold back this week, which is huge for the offense, as drives will be able to stay alive, and there's going to be more scoring opportunities. Not like this is some elite offense or anything, but it definitely helps quite a bit. And plus, Bell is pretty much the only guy in the team this season. I mean, I know Jameson Crowder and Robbie Anderson exist, but still, he's averaging 17.75 carries a game, and he's averaging over 7 targets as well. He owns a 27% target share on the offense, which is pretty massive for a running back. He's going to get a ton of volume and his elite talent, and also he's game script proofed as well. He's one of the leading receivers on the team. He's really not going to come off the field either. And now the Dallas run D numbers are inflated from last week's game versus Aaron Jones, so I mean, it looks like more of a friendly matchup than it is. But Bell at this price tag is too good to pass up, and I expect him to have a good amount of ownership at only 6,400, as he's just way too cheap. He should be about 7K, and he's a safe floor guy, and he has some upside too if he starts scoring touchdowns. So definitely like Le'Veon Bell, and his game logs are not too bad: 23 points, 21 points, 10 points, 15 points. I mean, if you're going to give me that at 6,400, I'll take it. If he gets into the end zone, he only has 1 touchdown this season, you're going to be pretty happy. He's going to score over 20 points. So definitely like Le'Veon Bell. He's going to see heavy targets. He's going to see the volume on the ground as well. So he makes a ton of sense to me this week. And next thing I want to talk about is David Johnson. Now, let me get into this first. So I have no idea if he's going to play or not. Pro Football Doc on Twitter tends to believe he does play as long as treatment goes well, and he believes he can play well too, and that he's not going to be too limited. But again, there is a concern if he does play. He could be limited. We don't know that yet. But it's only Tuesday, so let's just operate under the assumption that he's going to play and be a full go. And if so, I love him this week versus Atlanta in an expected high-scoring game. Atlanta notoriously struggles versus pass-catching running backs, which is right in DJ's wheelhouse. That's what he does. I mean, he's great on the ground anyway, but he is elite through the air. Atlanta is also giving up over 100 yards rushing per game, and I love the targets he's going to get, and he should eat if he's fully healthy. If he's not healthy and he doesn't play, Chase Edmonds becomes a really nice value play at only 4,600 as he gets the same exact matchup. So that's my opinions on that. If he is a full go, definitely like David Johnson. If not, he could probably fire up Chase Edmonds. Wouldn't be like insanely thrilled about it, but it's kind of like when Wayne Gallman, I believe he was 4,600, and he's not a great player or anything, but if you're going to see heavy volume and a good matchup, you become a pretty good play in DFS. And next thing I want to talk about is Mark Ingram at 6,600. I'm not a huge Mark Ingram guy in general, but this is a pretty juicy spot for him this week. Ravens are playing at home and are 12-point favorites versus Cincinnati, which is a dream matchup for Ingram. Bengals are allowing 39 DraftKings points per game to running backs this season, which is worse than the entire league. They're also allowing nearly 130 rushing yards per game and over 1 touchdown. Game flow should go in his favor for Ingram, as he isn't really a factor in the passing game much. I mean, he sees targets, but not like a lot whatsoever. And they should be able to pound it down their throats all day with Mark Ingram. If he gets into the end zone once or twice, I think we're in for a big day for him. He's already averaging 14.8 attempts per game and 70 yards and a touchdown on the ground per game. So this play makes a lot of sense to me. He's pretty cheap at 6,600, and I think he gets into the end zone. And if he gets us 100 on the ground and gets a touchdown or two, we're looking at a pretty good day. And I think you can see close to a ceiling game versus Kansas City. Now, I'm not telling you he's going to get 30-some points, but I think we're a safe bet for 15 to 20 with upside. So I definitely like Mark Ingram. And then the last guy I want to talk about is Alvin Kamara at 8K. So he's one of the most talented running backs in the league. He's an elite receiver and runner and possibly the hardest to tackle RB in the league. And he's to face off versus the Jacksonville run defense, who got absolutely exposed last week versus CMC, which CMC tends to do that to every team. But Kamara has a very similar skill set to Christian McCaffrey, that they're both elite in the passing game and excellent runners. Kamara also owns the highest elusive rating of all running backs this season, and he's leading everyone in broken tackles as well. I know outside of the Seattle game, it's been a little disappointing year for Kamara, but I think we can get a good game here from him. And really, I'm more so hoping for a ceiling game at 8K, but the way to attack this team is on the ground, the Jacksonville that is, and Kamara has the skill set to do it. Jacksonville is allowing 28.3 points per game to running backs, which I get is inflated from Christian McCaffrey last week, but it's what we have to go off of. I mean, still they're struggling versus the power run this season, and they're allowing 122 rushing yards per game, and Kamara is averaging over 20 touches per game, so I do have full confidence in him this week. And if you're gonna spend up for any running back, I do like Alvin Kamara. I mean, Dalvin Cook's obviously elite, and so is Zeke, but I don't know, I feel really good about Alvin Kamara this week, so no problem trying to go with them. And it's really not that hard to pay up at running back this week because there's a lot of good value options at the wide receiver position, and then there's some really, really, really cheap defenses this week. I'm talking sub 2K, so we'll get into that in a little bit. But let's go into the wide receiver position. And yeah, obviously I love Julio Jones in this matchup. He's leading everyone in the slate in air yards, but I just really don't love paying up for wide receivers. And I'm a one lineup guy. I play one lineup per week. I put them all in single entries and cash games. So I tend to not pay up for wide receivers. I want the safe running backs, and then I'm usually low to mid tier in quarterback. This week I think I'm spending up a little bit for last week. Obviously I love Deshaun Watson. I'm living in that 6.4, 6.5K range unless I punt with Kirk Cousins. So as of, usually I pay up for running back, mid tier for quarterback, and then I tend to go mid range for wide receivers. Now sometimes I am able to spend up on a wide receiver spot, usually only one, depending on the slate, which I might be able to do it this week, just depending on what I do with my defense. But anyway, let's just talk about wide receivers right now. So first guy I want to talk about is Cooper Kupp, which I know he's pretty expensive, but he's not an absolute top dollar. He comes in at 7.1K, and his price keeps rising, but I'm still interested. Kupp has become one of the safest options week in, week out this year with his massive 28% target share, which is second in the entire league, only behind Michael Thomas. He's an elite route runner and always seems to be open every time you watch the game. He's got great chemistry with Jared Goff, as that is his go-to guy. They just got such good chemistry. I've been saying that all season. He has 4 straight games of over 100 yards and 4 touchdowns the past 4 weeks. Another plus for Kupp this week is that the Rams defense has been pretty leaky lately, making the Rams have to throw a ton, which I believe they will have to do again. The 49ers are killing opposing running backs this season, being the stiffest team when it comes to facing running backs. And according to PFF, the Rams have the 4th worst run blocking matchup in the league this week, and they also have the 3rd worst pass blocking matchup as well. So I believe Goff will more than likely have to get the ball out quick, and they're going to be throwing a ton in my opinion, which should also benefit Cooper Kupp with his low average depth of target because he's going to be the safety valve, and if Jared Goff's under pressure, he's going to be looking to check down, and that's going to be Cooper Kupp. But Cooper Kupp also can make the big plays happen as well. I'm not saying he's just a dink and dunk kind of guy. I think Kupp keeps the good times rolling here, even in a non-favorable matchup. And if you're going to spend up, I think Cooper Kupp's the safest guy this week. But you can't go wrong with Julio Jones and DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, you can't actually. Recently, you have been able to go wrong with them, but I think they're fine. But I really like Cooper Kupp. I think he's very safe. Next thing I want to talk about is Adam Thielen at 6,700. If you look on Draftkings, he gets the bright green 32nd here, so that's going to draw some ownership, especially after what he did last week. Whoops. Not making a lineup today. Thielen out 6,700. Squeaky Wheel certainly got the grease last week off that huge performance and a great matchup versus the Giants, where he scored 35 DraftKings points. He gets another great matchup versus the Eagles, allowing 45.7 points per game to receivers this season. After voicing his displeasure with the passing game last week, the Vikings made it a point to get him the ball. And while there certainly isn't a pass-friendly offense, and Cousins has only really been good one game this season, Thielen will still get his. He's the numero uno on this offense, owning a 24% target share, 65 weighted opportunity share, and a 42% market share. It also helps having the defense most worried about Dalvin Cook, and Stephon Diggs also takes pressure off as well, even though he has not been performing well this season, mainly because of just the offense in general. Diggs is still a talent, which is why defenses are still going to worry about him, which loosens things up for Adam Thielen, even though he's still going to get the most attention. And Philly's pretty much a funnel defense, which, they're great versus the run and awful versus the pass. So teams tend to pass on them. So definitely like Adam Thielen. I think he's very safe. Pretty much the same kind of play as Cooper Kupp, except Cooper Kupp's probably going to get more volume. And then the next I want to talk about is, I'm going to group these two together. It's Larry Fitzgerald and... All right, so now we're going to talk about Larry Fitzgerald and Christian Kirk. Larry Fitzgerald's at 6.1K, and Christian Kirk's at 5.2K. So I really don't have news if Kirk's going to play or not. I know Cliff Kingsbury believed that he might be able to play Week 6. We don't know yet, so we'll have to see how practice goes. But if he does, obviously it's a boost to himself and Kyler Murray. And if he does play, it doesn't really change too much for Fitz, as it just becomes that there's someone else to worry about on this offense for the Atlanta secondary that's allowing 46.5 DraftKings points per game. And you guys just saw what the Texans and Will Fuller did to them last week. Now I don't expect a duplication of that or whatever, but I still think they're going to be fine. They're allowing nearly 200 yards per game to the receiver position alone and 2 touchdowns, so they should eat if both of them play. If not, I love Larry Fitzgerald for sure. He's going to be a very safe play. He's going to get heavily targeted. Week 1, he had 13 targets. Week 2, 11, then 7, 5, 8. I'll take that versus an Atlanta secondary. I think he probably gets around the double-digit targets versus Atlanta, and he should be able to eat in this matchup. I just really have a hard time seeing Larry not smash here at home, where he generally plays his best football. And again, if Christian Kirk plays and he's at full strength, he's an excellent value at only 5,200. Right now, he's popping up as one of the best values on my model. That's just assuming he plays. So if so, definitely like Christian Kirk, and he's an excellent value. And next, I want to talk about just a few value plays. I got 3 of them because we're going to have to dumpster dive a little bit, but I really don't feel too bad about them. So Mohamed Sanu, he comes in at 4,500, another guy that's popping up as a good value, because I more than likely can't pay up for Julio this week, and plus I generally like to pay up for running backs, so that usually tends to make me pay down a receiver. So I do like the idea of getting cheap exposure to the Falcons with Mo Sanu here. He's been quietly very solid this season. He's scored double-digit points each week, but 1 so far this season, and he's had his fair share of targets with 7 per game. He's not a high ceiling guy, but I love the Falcons here, and it's a great matchup versus the Cardinals, who they just lack in defense in all aspects. So I think Mohamed Sanu will be fine. He's not going to knock your socks off with a 30-point game, but he's been fine. 10 points week 1, 5 points week 2, 13 week 3, 18 week 4, and 15 week 5. If he can give me 12 points at 4,500, I won't hate it. I'm going to hope for around 15 to 18, but I think he'll be just fine versus Arizona. Preston Williams at 4,100. He's very cheap, and I know it's gross. I know you're thinking, ew, he's on Miami, but hear me out. Someone's got to do something in this game, and he's seeing a little over 7 targets per game, which I will take at 4,100. Now, these aren't the most valuable targets in the world, but he may be able to do some damage here versus the Redskins defense, which isn't really much of a defense at all. They're allowing 45.8 points per game to receivers, 171 yards, and nearly 2 touchdowns. So if you're in a pinch, I think Preston Williams can get the job done for you. And he's scored double-digit points in each game this season besides the last one, week 4. Then they have the bye week. So I think versus Washington, I think he'll be fine. So don't hate that. And then at 4K, that leaves us with Jameson Crowder at 4K. So he's actually popping up as a huge value on my sheet, which, it's kind of scary, but Sam Darnold's back, so it makes more sense. I don't love the matchup or anything, and he's priced as if Sam Darnold was out, and obviously he's in, so there actually is some value there, and more than likely they're trailing in this game. And now that he has a competent QB throwing on the ball, it'll be hard for him to not hit value here at only 4,000. Week 1, we saw him get targeted 17 times from Darnold for a massive 90 yards, which obviously that's not massive, especially if you had 17 targets, 14 catches. But still, that's great for PPR scoring, that's what this is in DraftKings, and that was also versus Buffalo. So again, in PPR formats, I think he's fine. If he can even do half that at 4K, I will take that all day. If you can get me 10 to 15 points, 4K punt, yeah, I'll be pretty happy with that. So don't mind Jameson. And there is one tight end I am talking about this week. I'm sorry if you wanted to hear about it anymore, but I'm just telling you guys what I'm personally going to plan on doing, and I am playing one tight end this week, and it is going to be Austin Hooper at 5K. I've made my mind up this week. I'm only considering one tight end. Eifert did not work out, but it's Eifert, so we'll give it a pass there for Arizona. I'm still targeting Arizona every single week until further notice. And now we actually get a competent tight end. Well, I shouldn't say competent. He's actually talented. But anyway, we get Hooper versus Arizona, who's still the worst team in the league versus tight ends this season. And actually, Eifert was becoming wide open in the end zone for a touchdown, but Dalton threw it behind him and it got swatted away. Or we'd be having a totally different discussion. Everyone would be all the way in on Austin Hooper because even Eifert did it. Obviously, everyone still loves Austin Hooper this week, but, still, point stands. He's actually been pretty good this season. Well, first I should say, Arizona's allowing 24.8 points per game to tight ends, 92 yards, and 1.2 touchdowns per game. These numbers are awful, and they're all league worse, even after Eifert and Uzomah's poor performance last week. And Hooper's been pretty good this season. He's averaging 8.2 targets per game, 72 yards, and scoring very well this season so far. So week 1, he had 16 points. Week 2, 7 points. Week 3, 24, 25, 13. I will take that. And versus Arizona, this is the best matchup he's going to get all season, and he should smash here. The Falcons know where the soft spot is on this offense, on this defense, which it's pretty much everywhere, but it's definitely with the tight end position. So I think Austin Hooper should eat, and I would fire him up in all formats. I think he's pretty much a cash game lock, and I would play him in GPPs too, even with the high ownership. And as for defenses, defense sucks this week. There's no one I want to play on defense at all. The Titans and Broncos game is going to be low scoring. Denver's at home, so I guess they make somewhat of sense. I don't like the Titans offense whatsoever, but even then, I don't love it. So I'm kind of gravitating towards just completely punting the position and hoping to get a point because these guys are cheap and there's some guys below 2K. So I got some interest down here, and I'm just going to tell you the 3 top values in my sheet that are popping up. It's in this order. So it's the Jets is the number 1 value, even going against Dallas. They're only 1,500. They are playing at home. Maybe it turns into a sloppier game. Maybe they can pick off Dak a couple times. I mean, at 1,500, get me 3 points. I'll take it. The next one was the Jags versus New Orleans without Drew Brees. And then it's gross, but the Bengals versus Baltimore. Lamar Jackson has been regressing, but that scares me. But those are just 3 ones that are popping up as the best values on my sheet. So letting you guys know that now. Because really, it's been pretty good with defenses. It's like the Steelers, Panthers, consecutive weeks. And they've been doing well. So thought I'd just share that information with you guys. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video. I hope it was helpful for you. If it was, remember to leave a like. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. I really appreciate it. Follow me on Twitter at ChrisPanel16. If you're interested in getting access to my sheet and my Slack chat, links in the description below. And I'll see you guys in the next video.